Hey. Welcome to another episode of Evolving Perspectives. My name is Mattea, your podcast host. And on this podcast, we dive deep into the stories of everyday people, discussing the hurdles they face and the triumphs they've achieved. We have real, raw conversations where we laugh, we cry, we uncover the incredible resilience within us all. From overcoming personal setbacks to navigating life's unexpected twists, each episode that you tune into is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to persevere and thrive. Tune in as we share moments of vulnerability, inspiration, and ultimately empowerment. Get ready to be uplifted and inspired as we showcase the unwavering strength of the human heart on Evolving Perspectives. Chime in. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Evolving Perspectives. My name is Mattea Elise, and I am your podcast host. And I am here yet again at this microphone, ready to bring you a dynamic guest. You all know that I don't play when it comes to the people who come to Evolving Perspectives. They bring the business, they bring the noise, and they are nothing but the truth. And today is going to be just that, which is going to be fire. I'm super excited about the guest that I have on today. This is somebody who I've known for a very long time. And y'all probably like, Lord, you know everybody for a long time, but I really have known her for a very long time. And I'm super excited about sharing the platform with her today. You all know that with each and every episode, I give my guests their flowers. And today is just like we always do. And so today I want to bring to you my special guest. She is a phenomenal woman. She is a motivational speaker. She is an advocate. And when I started thinking about how I was going to introduce her today, a few words came to my mind. And you know how it's trending now where it's like, if this was a picture, this would be this person. And the word that came to my mind is if overcomer was a person, her picture would be there. I am so inspired by her life, not just her story, her life. I am so proud of the work that she is doing in our community. She has not allowed anything that she has faced in life to put a period in what she has been called to do. And I am just honored to have her on the platform on today. And I'm going to give her an opportunity to share and, talk about who she is and what she does. But I hope you all give a warm welcome to my guest today. Liv, welcome to the podcast, girl.
Thank you, Mattea. I'm so happy to be here and honored to be with you today. I really am. Really am.
Oh, I'm so excited about our conversation today. And I want you, because of course I know you. Of course, that's why you're on here. But I want you to share with my guests who you are, what you do, all the things, and we'll go ahead and get our conversation started.
Oh man, that's a lot. I'll try to narrow it down to a good 2 minutes. But
Okay, look, 2 minutes, or we'll start playing the organ. No,
2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. Once again,
no, I'm
I
just
really
kidding.
am
Go ahead. I'm just
honored
playing.
to be here. I'm glad that you are actually setting this platform for many people to express how they feel about who they are,
Mhm.
partnerships within the community, our goals in life, etc. So I'm really excited about this platform and looking forward to it growing, honestly. And so as you mentioned, my name is Liz, and I am, of course, a native of Greensboro, where we met some years ago. We're not
Mhm.
going to put our age out there, but some years ago. um,
Right.
and uh, and I am a person who actually loves community work. Um,
Mhm.
and not going to get too deep into it, but of course, when you really sit back and look at the things that you've done in life, and sometimes you ask, how did I even get into this? How did I even get started? But I'm,
Mhm.
when I recollect all the way back, it's something that I've been doing for since I was a child. Of course, my mother was our outreach within our church, and so I've never known not going to someone's house and giving food, giving clothes, helping, giving people money, trying to make their lives better. And so that's what I evolved into being, a person that is passionate about the community and people. And so that is what I do on a daily. My undergrad is social work. So, of course, I said, how can I take this and place it into an area where I can make it, legit? And so I went to school, and that has been my passion, social work. My grad is in public administration. So I married the two and decided to just take this full on and go out into the community and see what the problems are, what our issues are, and try my best to resolve. And so that is what I do on a daily. I advocate for the protected classes, which kind of goes into my profession, what I do for a living. I am a commissions administrator for our local government, our city of Greensboro Human Rights Department. And so I oversee 5 commissions and boards that are all protected classes. And that is what we do. We come to the table to see, once again, what issues are, our inequities are within those communities, if it is within a policy, procedure, an ordinance, and how we can resolve. And so that is, most people wouldn't think of that being a passion. It is mine. Like, I literally get up and super excited every day about, like, how am I going to resolve this problem? How are we going to fix
Oh.
this? And that's my life. And I love it. And that's what I do. You never know why you go and brought up in the areas that you are. And I never understood it then. My mom making me do some of the stuff that I did. But now, 30 years later, I'm like, I am doing the same exact
Yes,
work that I was doing when I was literally a child. And
absolutely.
I'm thankful for it. So that's kind of a glimpse of what I do. In my daily. That's what I love doing. That's what I do every day. And that's my passion, is helping people to resolve issues within their life and how they can move forward.
I love that. I'm so excited about our conversation today because I feel like sometimes when we see certain things, especially in the media, it's kind of like, okay, that's them or that's what they're going through. But we don't really to be honest, we don't even sometimes people okay, I'm trying to say too much, Mattia, slow down. Sometimes I really look at things, and I'm not one that's always like, y'all should have done and we could have. I'm not that person because number one, you never know why people did or did not. You never know the reasoning behind how things happened, why they transpired, what was the when, the how, you don't ever know. So I always try to lead in any situation with an open mind, right? And so sometimes when I think about things that we've seen in the media, within our communities, it's almost like, okay, so this is happening, but how do I help? Because I'm not a politician. I'm not a community activist. I'm not on any board. So what does it look like for me as a regular Jane to be really an advocate in for certain communities, for certain demographics, for certain just social injustices that I may or may not see or feel people are being done a certain way. Like what does that really look like for the average person? And I think oftentimes people will sit back and say, yeah, I just don't do nothing. Well, it may not be that they're just not doing anything. It doesn't mean that they don't have a heart to do, but maybe they don't know how to do it. Because I'll be
Mm,
honest, I grew up in the DMV area and was fortunate enough to be a part of a ministry that was very active in the community. Like I remember one time, I'm not lying, this is my pastor at the time, he did not play no type of game. Let me tell you something. One time, and when I say I vividly remember this, one time the church was in the middle of of Southeast DC, and
mhm.
it was a Chinese little corner restaurant, right? The little like a Chinese restaurant, little carry out. And I can't even remember the details, but like the owner or something either pulled a gun out on a black guy or this or black person. When I tell you, baby, that whole church, we shut the whole Chinese restaurant down. But we went up in that thing, was like, what you not going to? You didn't set up shop in the middle of our community. What you not gonna do is disrespect the
Right.
people, patronize your business. And so I just was, privileged to be a part of a community activist group, I guess you could say, which was our local church, who
Mhm.
knew what to do. And he was very connected to people who were in political power, as far as the mayor and things like that. And they were always at our church and always talking to us. But just for people who may not have those same opportunities or experiences, what does it really look like to say, okay, I want to lend a helping hand? Or does my voice even matter? Because you have a lot of people who don't really participate or are active in their community because they feel like, well, they don't care. The people in power are gonna do what they want to do anyway. So can you walk my listeners through what it looks like to partner with your community, whether it's
Mhm.
local, state, or federal? What does that look like to be a part of those changes, like what you're saying? We come to the table
No.
and these are the issues. Well, who knows what the issues are? How do you know? How did you come? Like, who said the issue was this?
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
What does that
It's
does
it's
that look like?
a $1 million question, and I'm glad you asked because that is one of the biggest issues that we face is people are not um I'm not going to say they do not want to engage, but those are the very questions that people ask. And those are the very things that people feel.
Hmm.
Hey, I just had someone tell me about 2 weeks ago, I'm not going to vote. It don't matter anyway.
Right.
And I said, absolutely not. And so I think one of the first things, because our boards and commissions are people within the community. And
Hmm.
one of the first things that I will always share is awareness is number one.
Yeah,
And I say awareness because sometimes we feel like because it's not our world, it's not happening.
that's
And
true.
so you have to make yourself aware of what's going on around you. And even when you make yourself aware, that's when you ask that question of how can I get involved? How can I
Hmm.
see? How can I lend a helping hand? And sometimes, once again, it's number one, the awareness part, and number two, really learning what, like you said, those issues are. Our biggest problem, or I should say misconception, is when we want to resolve issues or we want to even know what they are, we go into neighborhoods, we go into situations, and we look at them from a very surface view. We don't go into
Hmm.
depths. When you go into a neighborhood that we consider bad, and what that bad is, rather it is, and let's just be honest, I'm going to be very transparent today. Most
Yeah.
people say, poverty stricken. We
Right.
have housing authority, different things that people look at when you see, they say bad neighborhood, or
Hmm.
bad area. And when you go, people automatically have this thing of, I see it and I'm going to do what I think is best to help the
Right.
community. However, when you are
Exactly.
aware that something's wrong, that's the first step. And the second step is you taking a seat back and actually going in and asking them, what is the problem? Before you try to
Hmm.
make that, assumption of this is what I'm going to do because this is what I see. Sometimes those problems are so deep, you can't help but to ask, what is the problem and how can I help? And the people will let you know this is what's
Yeah.
going on. This is what's going on in our
Hmm.
neighborhood. This is the problem. And then when people are telling you and they build that rapport with you, then you can take it a step further and then say, hey, these are the people within this community. Let's bring them to the table so we can see how we can get this resolved, whether it's once again through a policy, an ordinance, or whatever the case may be, however you want to set it, an initiative. So it is so many moving parts,
Gotcha.
Mattia, but I think that's the first, I would
Okay.
say, is awareness, making sure that, you are aware of the things. Perfect example. I chair a disability group for our employee resource groups within the city. And so, of course, that's internally. And I set up a way to bring awareness throughout the year. And
Hmm.
I was in a meeting several months ago, and we were planning something, and they kept saying handicap. And I said, well, handicap is an okay term. And I said, but, you know, with that, I work with the community. Persons with disability is really what we use now instead of labeling someone or calling them out as handicapped. So
Hmm.
the person said, well, I work with them every day. And so I know, we use handicap. And I said, well, I have a disability. So I think I would actually know what I would want to be called versus
Exactly.
you working with someone in a group of people. I don't care if you work with them every day, you still don't know how that feels. You don't know what that makes me feel like.
Absolutely.
And so at the end of the day, I had to do that quick correction. I didn't fault her because once again, it's not your life. But when you are
Absolutely.
absolutely, at that situation where you're at the table and this is what it is, listen, because
Yes.
that quick she tried to correct me and move forward with what she thought. And I said, that's not how that works. I am a part of the community. I work with the community. I advocate for the community.
Right.
I know. So
Right.
it's little small things like that that, with that goes along with that awareness piece of, just knowing and to making sure that when you engage with your community, Mattea, that you don't go in as the expert. They are the experts. And so if you want to
Yeah.
help, you have to ask how. This one simple
Yeah.
term. How can I help? And you'd be
How can I
surprised.
help?
People will say, yeah, you can help me this way, or we can help this way. And sometimes I think we complicate things more than we should. And so, like you
Agreed.
said, just really wanting to know, how can I really help? Ask. And
Yeah.
then people will tell you within that community, they'll say, we don't need that. They come over here all the time with that. We don't need that. We need this.
That and
um,
you are exactly right. I think two things came to mind when you were speaking. One was just being just being open to asking questions, and not being open, not being afraid to ask questions, because I feel like oftentimes we fear the unknown, and the unknown is not just about, because people associate, oh, you fear the unknown with you taking a leap on the job or taking a, but the unknown is something you just are not knowledgeable about. So that person was not knowledgeable about the disabled community because you're not in our community.
mhm.
But you
Exactly.
can but I can educate you, I can school you, you know what I mean? Ask the question. And what probably she should have said was, I'm using this term, but hey, Liz, what's the reason that you're saying disabled versus handicapped? And is that term now, now offensive? Or
Hmm.
would I be offending someone in that community? I always feel like, and I think that's probably why I love this podcast so much, is because I'm the person who's like, but tell me more.
Hmm.
But why is that? Okay, so you did
Exactly.
this, and I have to say, when it comes down to you, that I really, want people to understand with you is that you have not only taken on this role as an advocate just because of this is just a passion of yours, but just seeing who you are and how you've navigated through life. It is definitely an asset for them to have you at the table. I mean, in literal terms, from an educational perspective, just your passion, like you are definitely a powerhouse, and they need to hold on to you forever. And
Yeah.
I mean,
And I,
and to be honest, I mean, you could definitely be doing some greater things. The other thing that came to my mind too while you were speaking is, and this is, I hope what I'm getting ready to say doesn't sound offensive or come across as some type of way, but one thing that I feel like I experience is I service a little bit of everything and a little bit of everybody, from what they would
mhm,
consider lower class to your middle class to your upper echelon, whatever you want to say. But I feel like those middle class people are
mhm.
the ones really who be out the loop, because the people who are in the high power, they know their stuff because, of course, their money is what really makes all the policies and procedures. Let's be clear, this is America. And then
Right.
people, I don't want to say I don't say the, but people that in the lower economic, what is it? How do we say it? Lower economic line. What is the word I'm looking for? Like you got your middle class, you have your upper class, and
Lower
then
income.
lower
We say
income.
lower income. Hmm.
Okay, so lower income in that community, they're very well aware of what their rights
Hmm.
are. Like, no, I'm gonna get this card and I'm gonna get so and so, and they supposed to be, and let me sign up for this program. And I feel like whenever the community does something, it always caters to those two communities. But what about the people in the middle? Like, is it that we just are not, our voice is not loud enough? Or is
Um,
it that we get overlooked because it's like you ain't really in in the low income, but you really ain't arrived yet. So how do where's our stuff?
actually, no,
Do we
actually,
fall?
being behind the scenes, and I'm glad you asked that question. I work a lot, of course, behind the scenes. That's how I
Right.
like to work. Um, and to
Come
be
to the
honest,
front.
yeah, your
Stop
middle
this.
class is actually the ones that are behind the scenes. They're the ones who's moving
Really?
it quietly. Let's just be honest. Look at yourself. I don't know what your financial status is, but you have put yourself in a position where you are opening up a platform for many people. You serve many people. And so at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that there's some advocacy behind that. Even the advocacy that we don't, let me rephrase, advocacy looks like to some people one thing, but it's different ways that you can advocate. Rather it's you
That's
educating,
true.
and
That's
so
true.
advocacy does, and that's a whole different topic because that's one of the things that I have to battle a lot because people think it looks one way and it does not. There's many, many ways that you can advocate. And
That's true.
so, and advocacy can come through just what you're doing, a mic, and talking and having people and connecting. And so at the end of the day, there are, especially when it comes to politics and you're voting, it's your middle class that pushes. And so, because we're in the middle. You're not exactly millionaires, and you're not
Yeah.
at that poverty. You're not at considered lower income, and so
Right, right.
it gives you that leverage to fight. And so, most of my boards and commission are middle class members.
Okay, so maybe I'm okay, so maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I
No,
need to be on the
no, and
because
actually,
because the thing is, like, of course, I have kids that who are in school, and
mhm,
for me, for me, I believe in the public school system. That's just
mhm,
me. Because for a number of different reasons. Number one, I was raised in a public school system, and I
of
think I
course,
turned out pretty well.
yes,
I
ma'am.
feel like a private school is not, this is a whole nother conversation. A private school, that's your choice. I believe everything is people's choice. This is just my choice. And I always had this mindset of, and this is just like what the views and the opinions of evolving perspective are that of the owner
Your
only.
disclaimer.
Right, right, my disclaimer.
Your disclaimer.
My disclaimer. Like I always had this thing, like I was raised in PG County, Maryland, baby, where it was a little bit of everything. And let me tell you, even back in 1993, when I entered Largo High School, honey, we had metal detectors then. Just to give you a preface of how I,
Right,
but at
right,
the
right, right,
same
right.
time, there were people in that school and in the community who did not play about the students of PG County schools. And so
Mhm.
they also gave us opportunities, even though there were challenges. And I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like, especially when it comes down to public, I don't know why I'm going this way, but we're gonna come back. I'm gonna
No,
circle
no,
back
we,
because
we
it's
we
all
got it.
about advocacy. Is my thought has been, and this is just again my opinion, my thought has always been that it really is my duty to put my children in public schools because it's my tax money that's paying for the public schools. And so that's number one. And number two, I know that I am an advocate not just for my child, but for every child that I will encounter, even after my children leave the school, because I am at that school all the time. I am
Mhm,
not playing with them. I see a deficiency. I'm like, hey, hey, what's going on?
mhm,
We had a
mhm,
PTA meeting. That's how change is made. And if we
mhm.
all middle class and up take our kids to private school, how will these public systems ever change if we're not there to voice our opinions? And
Well,
so it's both. So that's just my perspective
No,
because
no, no.
I feel like
I,
I gotta speak up for people who may not have that advocacy in their life. Their parent may not know to go up to the school. So I'm speaking for you and me. So that's just in a good way.
well,
You know what I
well,
mean?
let me
I'm not
interject
I'm
right
not knocking
there.
private school at all because I'm
No,
also open to that too.
and I think once you get into, and that's a whole nother podcast that we might have to come back and resurface that actual thing because when you talk about middle class, low, high, it goes into your caste system and how the society is already
Yeah.
set up for that to be just that, a divide. And so,
Right.
like you said, when
Right.
you go into your schools and you don't play about your kids, but sometimes no matter how hard you fight, you still know that even the scripture speaks about the systems of this world. That is the system that has been set up. And so with us, it takes a parent like yourself, and it takes many parents like yourself to say, yeah, I know some of these things are systemic, but here I am, not on my watch. We have to change this. We have to do this because it's a system that we're going up against. Even when we come to, you know, the table with a lot of things that we do. And I just had this conversation yesterday because I headed up a retreat for our commissioners and our city manager's office was there. And I explained to them, walk them through when we do all of this and you still get a no from city council on something not passing, or you get a no on this ordinance that you want to see passed. You get a no on this and a no on that. And it was simply said, keep trying, keep fighting. And that is a part of what we do in advocacy. So, like you said, with your kids, you don't want them, you care about public school systems. It's your mouth and your voice that has to be heard. And so, it is, Mattea, something that is very complex. It's a lot of moving parts to it, advocacy itself.
It is.
And a lot of people walk
It
into it
is.
thinking, the protesting part is all you see. And everybody ready to pump their fists and they ready to
Yeah.
go out here. And we love that because, that's good, but when, like you say, all of that dies down, we still at the table and these things still have to be pushed and these things have to be,
Exactly.
spoken on, we have to still speak about these things. So it is something that, I often tell people when you step into that world and you step into advocating, it's almost like the news. We get to
Hmm.
flip, the average person gets to flip through channels, like my director said, and she made a lot of sense. You get to flip through channels. When we're in this business, it stays on the same channel, and that's
Mm.
issues. We don't get to turn that off
Yeah.
because that's the driving part. And so
Yes.
that's what we do
That's
every
true.
single day when someone hits our office up or someone called, hey, Miss Liz, I was discriminated upon, or hey, here's your office. They gave me your number. What do we do? My landlord is doing this to me. What can I do? So it's a constant, and it's very
Oh,
draining sometimes. Very
I could
draining.
see
That's why
that.
I say you have to have a passion for it. And one of the things that um, is kind of disheartening. And once again, I'm going to remain transparent. I think with our community, African
Hmm.
American community, it's almost like we talk a whole lot. I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
We talk a
Yeah.
lot. If I see another podcast, and that's no discredit to yours, because I think you're doing great things with yours, but we set these platforms up and we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk all day, every
Yes.
day. But when
Yes.
I say, here, we're gonna do this and roll up our sleeves, it's almost like you remember the cartoons when they go so fast they leave a thing of smoke. That's how that's
Crickets.
how it looked. And I'm like, where everybody at? So all of these phenomenal and astronomical revelations we have behind the mic, it's little done when it comes to the work. It
Yeah.
is nothing that's new, Mattea, because if it was little done with the work and that's a new thing, then the scripture wouldn't have said it back then. Put your hands to the plow. What does it say? You got to
Yes.
work. It also says that the
Yes.
harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. They were going
It's
through
a
this back
few.
then, and we're
That's
going
so
through this
true.
now. So
You
it's
are right.
no different. So we have to make sure that you know we're not just talking this thing because unfortunately we're the race that's picked out to be picked on the most when it comes to disparities, when it comes to
Yeah.
rights. We're still fighting, and it's really not a joke. I'm out here literally in these streets. I'm organizing. It's my job. It's what I do. And I see, if we didn't have God on our side, God knows where we would be.
Yeah.
But this advocacy thing and this and fighting for rights, it's some real business, and it's something that you have to really, really put your gloves on, like boxing. You have to go out here because it's a lot
It's
that you
true.
face. It's a lot that you face.
It's very true. And I think and it's funny that you mentioned like, oh, Mattea, this platform and you speaking out and things like that, because that really is the premise of this podcast. Of course, to highlight the lives of people, how they've evolved in their life, family, and work. But also when people listen to this podcast, I don't just want it to tickle your ear. This is
Mm-hmm.
not just about me entertaining you. We will have moments where we'll laugh, we'll share funny stories and all the things. But I want people, when they listen to this podcast, to truly take something away. I want I want you to dig deeper. I want you to think. I want you to think deeper, think more, expand how you would have packaged something. Maybe you did something a specific way, but after listening to the podcast, your eyes have been open,
Mm-hmm.
your awareness
Mm-hmm.
has been heightened.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what this podcast is really about.
Mm-hmm.
All this kick, 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 kick. No, if lives aren't being changed and people's lives aren't being impacted positively, then all of this is null and void for me.
Right.
I can't speak for
Right.
anybody else. And I'm not saying that because what you just said, but just in
Right.
general,
No, no, no.
you can go back to season one. That's just kind of how we roll. And which is why I'm very intentional about the people that I bring on the podcast, because I don't want to just have conversations just to be talking. I
Mm-hmm.
want people to feel empowered and impacted so that they can make change in their community, whether their community is in their household, in their marriage, in their neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
in their, in their
Right.
city, in their state, whatever that looks like. And so for me, when we had the conversation about you coming on, I was like, this would be really awesome because we do a lot of talking. And
Mm-hmm.
like what you were saying, I didn't know, it's kind of like, well, what do I do? I'm a type of person, and if you've ever done Strength Finders test, I'm an activator. So for me, I'm like, it's an issue, what we got, how we going to solve it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
always in resolution mode, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Several years ago, my son was diagnosed as being level one autistic and having
Mm-hmm.
ADHD. And so I was going through all of these channels trying to get him help in school, and only to find out there is a little bit available
Mm-hmm.
unless you are in a certain tax bracket. And so
Mm-hmm.
me being who I am, when I went to the school, I said, so what you trying to tell me is unless I am in a low income household, you don't provide services for me? I said, make that make sense. I said, that doesn't make any kind of sense. So you're saying if I am middle class to higher class in the public school system, I don't need help, my kid don't need help? That's a discrimination. Oh,
It.
Miss Hunter, uh, well, we're working on some things. We're putting things in place. Okay, let's work on that. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Because for me, this was not just about my child. Because I'm like, how many other parents don't
Exactly.
even know where to begin and how to advocate, what even advocacy looks like? Because I even had to check one of my clients one day who's a special ed teacher, and she was like, these parents don't even show up. They don't even come to the meetings. I said, have you ever considered the idea that maybe they feel intimidated when they come to the meeting? Maybe they
Mhm.
don't show up because they don't have a ride. Maybe they don't show up because they're afraid that the language that you'll use, they don't understand.
Mhm.
How about you switch the way you think about it and have an open perspective on what are the ways that we can bring them in that they will feel comfortable enough so that they don't feel attacked? Because when you go to the
Exactly.
meetings, they start speaking all this jargon. Honey, I had to hire me an educational advocate. I didn't even know that exists. It was me doing the
Exactly.
research. So now,
Mhm.
because of that, I end up starting, a parent support group for children with special needs because I'm
Mhm.
like, there were things that I just did not know. I got a whole
Mhm.
degree in education and still didn't know about a whole lot of things. I've been out of the system a very long time. And so
Yeah.
just being able to
It,
provide those type of things, that is definitely advocacy. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, but just to give you all an idea of what being involved and active in your community, really looks like. And so if you
mhm.
have an issue, because even when you see stuff, and I'm going to transition a little bit, when you see stuff on the news, I'm always curious, like, now who told y'all that that happened? They'll be like, yes, we've had roaches and rats and like, you're like, so did somebody from the community, did one of the residents call? Like, did they see, like, did y'all just go out? So it's funny because when you said people contact us, I said, how would they know to call
Oh
you
yeah,
specifically? Like, what's the
they
name of your
call,
office? So people,
and
okay.
you would be
And
surprised.
your office is what's the name? What would be
We are
what's your or your agency, I guess you could say.
we're actually city, so we're considered, of course, local government, and we are a part of the city of Greensboro, and so our department is human rights. And so within our department,
Okay.
we have programs, or I should say, each one of us plays a role in overall advocacy. But
Okay. Okay.
we have different sections. My section is human rights boards and commissions. So, of
Gotcha.
course, I described that earlier and what I do and all the boards that I oversee. And then we have a partnership actually with HUD, with fair housing. And we have a landlord tenant program. So if you are in an apartment house, and you are discriminated upon, or you have a slumlord or a landlord that's doing something, then they can reach out to us. And then we have investigators that'll go in,
Oh,
review, and some of those issues are pretty deep, and our city attorneys will get involved. And so it is basically providing you with the resources. Some things we
gotcha.
can, you know, we have, I call it teeth, that we can pretty much bite at right then and there. Like our fair housing, they have compliance on their side. But when you come to my area, it's more of a longevity thing. If this is something you're seeing, we're going to meet, and then we're going to try to see how we can resolve this. And, once again, that resolving being rather policy wise or creating a policy. Right now, we're in the
Hmm.
middle of um, us, we created a initiative, I should say, towards something that we didn't think was going right. And so I pitched it and said, hey, I don't think this is right, but I can't speak for them. And they said, oh, no, we've already noticed it. Let's work on this. So for the
Mm.
last year, we've been working on this, and then we will present to council. And so, of course, if presented, they accept, then that actually will
Oh,
be changed, and we'll go from there. So, it is, like I said, it's so many ways. And I always say, for people to educate, and it's good to start off with your local boards and commissions, and try to get involved. And it doesn't even have to be a part of the city. You have grassroots organizations out here like NAACP, anything that is going to be within your community. And I always say start small, because
okay.
within that you can get a better understanding and education on how it
Mm,
works. Because I
gotcha.
do have some people who have come in, and I developed a training last year called advocacy development. And it was literally walking our commissioners through why you're even here. Because you'd be surprised. People, and we both
Ooh,
know this, people hop onto stuff for good intentions and sometimes bad. So when you hear I'm a
right, right.
commissioner, that sounds good to a lot of people. And then you have a lot of people who come in and had no idea what it even meant, what they were supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need you to know what
Right,
this really
right.
is. And so I went and I, created a training that we did every quarterly, and kind of walk them through policies. What does that mean? What does a policy mean? How does that affect you? What is an ordinance? You know, how do you even know how that operates? So it's a lot of basic things that I tell people to start off with. And to be honest with you, I'm still learning a lot of stuff and I've been in it for a while.
Yeah.
Law and medicine is something you'll never master because it's forever changing. And so I say,
Yeah.
don't be afraid if you don't know these things, learn. Learn your
Yeah.
district, or rather you're in a ward, that everybody has, labeled differently. But learn the basic things that you know is going to affect you. And when you know that it is something that is affecting you, then you have that right to speak. I never thought I would say it and I get tickled. I have become the somewhat of the neighborhood parent, not in a bad way, but when stuff happens, I'll be the first one, Mattea, to pick up the phone. And I'm like, this is not right. And I never thought I would be that person. And I'm like, I'm gonna need, and it's comical because I'm waving like, hey, how you doing? And I'll get on the phone. I need y'all to come over here, and I'm gonna need y'all to. That is
That
me.
is my
But you know what?
husband all day.
That is me because I'm gonna tell you, when you own something and you know you're gonna be there for a while, things hit differently when you see stuff happen in your neighborhood. Okay, and so
And
you
now
you
you all right about that.
you're the first to say, I'm gonna need y'all to, So I laugh all the time, and my sister Charlene said, "Somebody gonna rough you up, Liv. You're a little neighborhood." But it's comical. But if you don't raise your voice, then people are gonna keep right on doing exactly what they're
And that's
doing,
true.
and they don't care. So I mean,
And you right.
look at what
That
we're
is very
facing.
true.
Yeah, we're facing
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
political party right now that thinks it's okay to try to put us back into chains and put us back in the Jim Crow
Yeah.
era. If they're not stopped, that's what we'll be doing. You'll be seeing colored signs and white signs only. This stuff is not a joke, it's real. And
It's
the enemy
real.
never stops, Mattea. He never stops.
That's so
And
true.
so we
It's
have to
so
keep
true.
going. It's never
Yeah.
it's a war. We have many battles, but it's the war has never stopped. We have to keep
Yeah.
fighting. We do.
You are exactly right. I know you and I were just talking about the road trip that my family and I did.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, one of the two hit we made two major stops. Not I won't say major because all of them were major, but two
Hmm.
stops that were the most, I'll say, impactful for me was one, we went to Greenwood Avenue, which was in Tulsa,
Hmm.
Oklahoma, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So where Black Wall Street was.
Hmm.
And then the other one, we went to the Lorraine Hotel where MLK was assassinated. And
Hmm.
so the thing that I loved about those museums was that they didn't just talk about the event that happened. They talked about all the things that led up to that event happening.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think over time, what we have to always remember at the forefront is that it is not really an option for you to sit back.
No, it is
It
not.
really is not. It really is your obligation
Hmm.
to speak up. It doesn't mean that
Hmm.
everybody will be, in the forefront. Everybody's not going to be a MLK. But when you
Exactly.
think about his life, even though he was assassinated that particular day, there were many times that there people threatened to take his life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the thing about it is, I think sometimes we don't step up, and especially in our culture, I
Hmm.
don't know if it's like that trauma experience, like I ain't about to be out here in another MLK situation. I don't know if it's that or it's that we feel like we've now quote unquote arrived and it's no longer necessary. But the reality is it is necessary. And when we don't learn from history, it will repeat itself, period. And
Teach
so
on. Yep.
you
Learn.
know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like we have to
Hmm.
learn the
Hmm.
lessons, the things that
Hmm.
they were fighting for. We have to continue to fight. And although we are experiencing, a lot of freedoms and liberties and things like that, I
Hmm.
always say, me and my husband talk all the time, it's like, no, we're not in physical slavery anymore. And no, we're not in the Jim Crow era technically. However, it's just packaged differently. Yes, you can go to school and get an education. Yes, you can have a good job. Yes, you can live in a house with a white picket fence. Yes, you can have a cat. I mean, yes, you can do all those things, but at the same time, don't forget
Hmm.
who you are.
The scripture
Don't
says,
forget there are you know what I mean? Like even with our road trip, I say this, just this is just my experience as a Black female in America, that as confident as I am in who I am and the fact that I know that I am not a threat to society, one of the reasons that we chose to drive a minivan versus getting in an RV and going to these RV parks was because of safety.
mm-hmm,
Because I got a
mm-hmm,
whole Black husband and
mm-hmm,
two Black children. And
yep,
what I didn't need was somebody looking at us like, what you doing here? And then we on
yep,
the news. That was not
yep,
about to be our story. And that's
mm-hmm.
just, it's a sad reality. So
It's
although
reality.
I am
Mm-hmm,
grateful that we had an opportunity to expose ourselves, not because people always talk about our kids, but expose ourselves and our children to this awesome trip. But at the same time, we ain't stupid either. Like, and it's sad that you got to think like that, but that's unfortunately the realities of life. You know what I'm
it's,
saying? And so
yeah.
I think that's why when you still have that sense of, and I saw something one time where it's a post that said something like, we want to stop having to hold our breath. And
Mm-hmm,
it's not just blacks. It's whatever population, that is misrepresented or doesn't feel like they
mm-hmm,
have full representation.
mm-hmm,
It's any of those communities. It's not just limited exclusively to the Black community. It's a little bit of everybody. And y'all know who everybody is. You know what I mean?
right.
And so it's everybody. And so when you think about those things, at the end of the day, it's about our human rights. You know what I'm saying? As being a human being. You know what I mean? It's not just limited. It's like I should be able to not have to always hold my breath every time I go down a dark alley out of fear that somebody's gonna
Mm-hmm,
mistake me for somebody. Like it's those type of things. So that's why advocacy is so important. Being a part of your community and advocating for your community and the things that that your community needs, whether it's
mm-hmm,
another outlet or a resource for the children. And it's funny because one of my clients works for United Way, and we were talking the other day because she was saying that they funded a program for a lot of the school systems in this area, and one of the school systems decided not to do the program, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in life. I said, you
mm-hmm.
have children who are home all day long. Because everybody, let's be clear, everybody cannot afford to send their kid to camp. And don't
No,
let
they
you have
cannot.
multiple
No, they
kids
cannot.
and for a whole summer.
Exactly.
That could be
Mm-hmm,
very
mm-hmm,
expensive. And so it's
mm-hmm,
like the fact that you all were providing a program where the students could participate. Y'all provided breakfast, lunch, and transportation. And one of the school systems were like, we won't do it this year. We gonna wait because we not what? I said that. Why would you want your students just sitting at home doing nothing when their brain could be stimulated? When kids are home, it gives them an opportunity to be running wild in the neighborhood, doing stuff they ain't supposed to. Like, let's be honest, like it's you can't look at it from, oh, my kid don't have nothing to do. No, we're talking about the whole it is a ripple effect. And the big picture is there could have been some things that your children could be doing that they may not have gotten in trouble this
yeah.
summer had they had that. But when you're not involved and you don't speak out and you're not
Yeah.
committed to your
Yeah.
community and what's going on, you don't even know these things exist.
And not only that, and let me just kind of push the rewind button for a moment. I think the first
And you
thing, like
correct
you
me when
said,
I'm wrong, because this is your
no, no,
wheelhouse.
no, no. You hit the, right on the head with it. But I do believe that one of the things that people have to remember, going back to that system, when we do these things, we still have to remember that everything is systemic.
Yeah,
There was a goal when creating this country, and that goal was, we're going to be very transparent, it was to be a white utopia.
right,
Everything was supposed to be for white, and that caste system still was there, but it was still rich white, middle class, and of course poor. It never had anything to do with us. other races. It was simply for white people. So when you
Right.
start progressing and you bring people over here, and we know the story, you
Right.
know, that system has still never, ever left. That has
Yeah.
always been the goal. That will
Right.
continue to be the goal because the
Right.
goal was to be in superiority over every other race. And so when you say systemic, you as a person who has no prejudice or racism in your heart, you'll look and say, that's really stupid. That doesn't make any sense because it doesn't.
Exactly. It
But when
doesn't.
you look at it from a systemic level, yes, it does. Because when you have kids who are not
Absolutely.
educated, you have kids running through the street. That means you give a cop a job. You have lawyers that are still in place. You have judges that are still in place. You have a system called prison that's still in place that you can buy taxes, you can buy stock in. All of these things are still set up for you, or I should say, us to fail. That is the number one thing that we fight. So sometimes
Yes.
I have to tell people when they go in and they have this great cape on and they go, save the day. And I love the passion, but you still have to keep in mind that this is a system that we're fighting that was never
Yeah.
designed for us. And so when it
That's
comes
so
to things
true.
like that, it is still the privilege that's there. So, when you think of, like you said, and that's the common reaction, that doesn't make any sense. And when I have sat on my job, trust me, Mattea, plenty times, I'm that one in the meetings. Like, this don't make no sense. This is not right. So, I
Hmm.
don't get called to many meetings much. But when I'm in there, it doesn't make sense. It's not right. And I know I've been, you know, and I'm going to be honest, blackballed in the past because I know that's my goal. If it's not on the side of what's right and fair, you're going to hear from
Yeah.
me.
That's
And people
right.
pump their fist in solidarity and say that they all for you being truthful until they realize that means to you too. And so when
Right.
I'm truthful to you, regardless of your situation or your position, then it's a problem. But back to
Right.
that systemic part, you're absolutely right. It's still set up for us to fail. So
Yeah.
that's why we have to make sure that, our voices are vocal. And one thing that I do want to say, that's the most important of all is when we're understanding advocacy, when you're advocating to educate someone to make a change, when you do that, you still have to be clear that when you step into this arena, it's not about you advocating for people to like what a person is doing or like what they stand for. Perfect example. I oversee a transgender task force
Hmm.
and I work from home and someone was working on my bathroom. They were painting my bathroom and I had to do a meeting with the group. And when I hung up,
Hmm.
it was a male and he said, I don't want my child growing up to see that. I don't want my child being involved with that. And I said, that's your right.
Hmm.
I said, it is your right. I said, but this group is not created for you to like them. This group is created
Hmm.
and their rights are here because we advocate for you to respect the fact that they have rights. I don't advocate for you to like them. I advocate for you to respect that they have a
Right.
right to be who they are. That's what advocating is
Right.
about. Because even with some of them, I had to correct when I came in because it was people need to understand. I said they need to like it no matter. No, no, no. People don't have to like who you are. People have every right
Right.
not to like
Right.
who you are. People have the right to not like you and a lot of people get angry when I say this. People have the right not to like you for the color of your skin. If you're a woman, all of these things they have the right to do. Hear me now. What they don't have the right is to put those feelings into action and to do that towards you. You don't have the right to discriminate against me because I'm black on my job and not give me the job. So therefore, when I step into this field and
Right.
you step
Right.
out here, you have to know I'm not here for people to like you. I'm here for people to respect the fact that you have a right to be who you are. You have a right to be human. You have a right to education. You have a right to all these things. And so
That's
even when
right.
we step
That's
into
right.
that, I still have to tell people sometimes because they're so adamant on wanting people to like them. And this is who we are. And it's like,
Hmm.
that's not why we're here. I'm here that if you're a transgender, you should be able to walk down the street without getting beat up or murdered. That's what I'm here
Right.
for. Because
Right.
regardless if I
Right.
like what you're doing or not, I don't have the right to beat you up and take your life. Those are the human
Exactly.
rights that
Exactly.
that's what we fight for.
Those
And
are
so,
human rights.
it's human rights.
Absolutely.
And so I do believe that even with all of that that you mentioned, once again, it is a lot of moving parts. But the most
Yeah.
important, Mattia, is to be knowledgeable about what we're doing. He said that my people perish due to the lack of knowledge. And you said
Yes.
something very important earlier, and that is people don't like you to know the history because they want it to repeat itself. And so that's why
Yeah.
books are taken out of school now. Black history is being attacked because people are setting up to still do the same thing. And it's not just about racism, it's about a lot of things, having women back into the
No.
same space
It's
that
about
they
a lot
were
of
in.
yeah.
It's a lot. And so
Yeah.
it's something that is something for all of us to get involved in and have a voice. And that's the beauty of it. All of us can have a voice in it. This is not respect of a person. Anyone can advocate, and that's the beauty of it. It really is.
You are exactly right. I think, after our visit to, I mean, I always felt this way anyway, because I'm just one, I'm gonna vote no matter what people say or try to push their thoughts on, oh, it don't matter no
Mm-hmm.
way. I'm gonna vote because I just think that's the right thing to do. And
Mm-hmm.
especially after seeing some of the visuals at those museums, it puts things in a
Mm,
different perspective and you see them in a
very.
different light. And when you see
Mm-hmm.
pictures of people who were lynched, and not this is not just in words, but an actual picture of
Mm-hmm.
somebody, a whole person hanging from a tree with a sign that they have put around their neck that said, I was killed because I decided to vote today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm showing up for them.
Yep.
I'm
That's the
showing up for
purpose.
every person who was hosed down, who were told they couldn't, who whose life was at stake, whose home was set on fire because they just decided to vote.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to go
Eh,
vote. And you don't even know what they voted, where they voted. Because the reality, especially the thing that was so crazy with that is, it's like back then it wasn't even no minorities on the darn ballots. So it's like, so what y'all really mad anyway? Seems like you were really kind of be happy that I'm voting because it probably will help one of y'all. That is so. That's a whole nother conversation. We're not gonna get into
oh,
that.
no,
And I also
you're right.
like now that I think about it, I'm like, why were you even mad? Like it really would benefit you for me to vote because that means more people are voting for your person. Like it's just ignorance. Anyway,
Exactly. And I
we're
and
this
I think
was this yeah. This episode, y'all, this episode is just a totally different. It just went a totally different way, which is perfectly fine because facts are facts. Like it just
Mhm.
this is I want to make sure that my listeners have a clear understanding that even as we wrap up, that this episode is not about any particular race, any particular party affiliation, any particular orientation. This has nothing to do with that, but it has everything to do with the power of your voice and the importance of advocating for those things that make our country and our world and our next generations better. That really is
Absolutely.
what this is all about. So I want to
Absolutely.
make sure that I hope that as you have listened, today I know I got a little saucy in some of this, but I just get so passionate about it because I just hate people always talking about it. But I'm like, well, what you doing now? And so I get a
Exactly.
little worked up. I just get a little worked up. And so I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that this episode, because I have a little bit of everybody who listens to this, is not just our community. And I'm grateful for everyone who listens. But I think that we have to also know that a term that one of my friends shared with me many, many years ago that has helped me through life is we have to be brave enough to have those courageous conversations. And
Yes.
even though you
Hmm.
think it's not important, you can never tell me how I'm supposed to feel about a
Thank you.
particular situation. You
Exactly.
can't tell me
Exactly.
that I should be okay because at least I put,
Mhm.
just say with you, well, they put a ramp out front. What else do you want? But you can't tell me how I feel about that. You put it in the wrong place. It doesn't help me when the parking spaces are way over there and the ramp is right here. That's dumb. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like
Exactly.
you need to ask me how do I feel about this situation? And so that's what this is really about, leaning into empathy, when it comes to those who are in certain communities, no matter what the community is. It may be the elderly community, whatever you are passionate about. I feel like God gives us a passion or a heart for certain communities. And a lot of that's based upon our own experiences, let's be honest, which is perfectly fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
And
so so that's just how that goes. But what do you want to say? And we can
and
wrap
and
up.
and, and lastly, I'm glad you said about the feeling part. And if I don't leave anything else, the conversation piece is the driving force behind advocating, because you just can't once again go out and say this is what we're going to do. There has to be many conversations on how you're
Yes.
going to maneuver. And really quick, perfect example, I had a person that walk in. This is when I was managing the facilities at this time. There was supposed to be a meeting there from a local neighborhood. An older white gentleman walked in. And I was, used to telling them, hey, this is, they moved your meeting in another space. So he said, oh, okay, no problem. And he started asking about the facility. And we talked. And he said, well, I really didn't want to go to this meeting tonight, but then again, I want to go because we're having some problems with some young men on the, basketball court. Then we kind of went into the conversation. And he actually sat in my office. And, he was older, he was 84. And so
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, you know how we were brought up, just to respect. And
Exactly.
the conversation went left. And because he said it was some black boys. And I said, okay, okay. And he kept saying their race. And I said, well, I think we've established they're black,
All
And he said, well, I
right.
didn't mean any harm. And when we got into that conversation, Mattea, come to find out, he was a part of the Sons of Confederacy and was a part of civil rights, all of that. And that was the civil rights against us. So here I am in my office talking to a person who is a part of the Sons of Confederacy. When I tell you that conversation, when he got up, he said, I really liked talking to you. It was different. I didn't get offended.
Mm.
I didn't ball my fist.
Yes.
I didn't get angry. We literally talked. And I
I
never in
love
my
it.
wildest dreams thought I would be sitting there having a calm conversation about someone who was fighting to
Right.
keep me segregated from them.
Right.
And
Right.
my point was the conversation had to be had. There were some things I said, and
Yes.
actually it was some things that he was talking on. But the conversation, the point is, if you can't go in fighting, you have to go in and be willing to open up, and you got to hear both sides. You got to hear why.
Yes.
Conversations are very important when you are trying to make changes, even with what we call the
Yes.
opposing side. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because if you're not willing and open to have that conversation, I promise you, you will get nowhere. And so that is something, even when
Yes.
it's something that you're fighting against, you have to sit and you have to try to work it out and have to have a listening ear. So if anything else, that is very important. Very, very important. I just wanted to put that out there, that you have to be willing and open to have conversations, because that's what matters. It really is.
Yes. You are so, so right. So, so right. And I just want to thank you for coming on today. Thank you for sharing with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for enlightening us and
Yeah.
helping us to be better advocates in our community is so important now more than ever to
Mhm.
make sure that, we're out there, we're taking a stand, that we're not just doing the work, that we're even teaching our children and the other generations behind us, whether you have physical children or not, how
Right.
important it is to advocate for those in our community, those who we love ultimately, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so it's just so very important. And I want to make sure that we are very, clear on that. And our message today is just about standing up for what's right. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
how important your voice really is, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
It's all about.
Change. It really is all about. I mean, and to be honest,
Hmm.
we wouldn't be where we are today had
Hmm.
somebody decided that ain't my problem.
Absolutely.
That ain't
Absolutely.
my
We would
issue.
still
That's
be
your
in Jim
eh,
Crow era.
we
Yep,
we really
we
will.
would.
But somebody was
Hmm.
willing to take a stand. And
Hmm.
again, I want to encourage you. Doesn't mean that everybody's about to be another Martin Luther King, because there were plenty people who were behind the scenes who were just making phone calls or
Exactly.
just saying, I'm with you.
Hmm.
Not just the people who are vocal, it's all the people, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so your advocacy, like what you shared, I think was very important. Your advocacy is packaged in so many different ways. It's not just, yes, let's do this on the front line
Hmm.
with a picket sign. It may not be
Hmm.
that. It may just be you talking to your neighbor about the concerns and
Hmm.
issues of your neighborhood or of your local government and making people aware of what's going on. And I
Exactly.
think even for myself, this is, with me, y'all know how I do. I want to always challenge you all, to do better, to be better, to step outside of your comfort zone, to take the risk, to take that chance to do something different. It's just not okay for you to, it's all about my three, what they say, my four and no more. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's so much more to it than that. And I just want to
Hmm.
challenge all those who are listening, to take a step. Take a
Hmm.
step in advocacy, no matter how you want it to be packaged, because we need, look, I feel like my mother. At the end of the day, like Hezekiah said, we need each other to survive. I pray for
Absolutely.
you,
There
you
is no
pray
lie.
for
Look,
me.
look. No lies detected. That is the absolute truth. And we need each other. And
We
as
need
we
each
get older,
other.
we learn more and more. You need somebody, and we need each other.
Yes,
Definitely. So I'm so excited. Thank you, Mattia, for the opportunity.
absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I think this is definitely the beginning. And I encourage anyone, go to your local, city, be civic, join these groups, make your voices known because it's important. It really is. Your livelihood and your life depends on it. It does.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Liz. You're welcome. Thanks again for joining us today on Evolving Perspectives. We were so blessed by your presence and the words that you shared today. And for all those who are listening, make sure you are liking, you are subscribed, you have downloaded, but ultimately you have shared us with all of your family, your friends, and even in people who you don't like. Tell them about us too. We're on all your major streaming platforms, and we're here to help you evolve in your life, your family, and work. And always remember to keep evolving. Until next time, you all be easy. Thank you again for tuning into Evolving Perspectives. Remember to like, subscribe, download, and share with your friends and family about our episode that releases every single Monday. And always remember to keep evolving. Until next time, be easy.